Oh, hello. I didn't see you come in there. You see, I was just talking to my friend here about video game development logs, so your timing couldn't be more perfect. I spent a lot of time in the last devlog talking about what inspired me to make the game and what the process has roughly been like getting from nothing to something. But today I'd like to talk a little bit more about what Welcome to Elderfield actually is. In the future, I plan to talk about how I expand the game, address common problems and bug reports, tweak things based on feedback, and how the playtesting of the game feeds back into the game's development. So it only makes sense that, in order to give you some context, I talk about what the game actually is, so that any of that other stuff actually makes sense. Right now, the game is as follows. When you first load the game, you're alone in your room. You're an unnamed girl living in a strange town named Elderfield, where the unusual is usual. As you explore some of the amenities in your home, you'll get a sense of how the game's systems work. You can take a bath to heal, sleep to pass time or save the game, equip weapons and armor at your wardrobe. You can watch TV to see the daily news program, cook food, and read your mail/journal. With all that explored, you can step outside, and the game truly begins. Your friend Tanner stops you to tell you a little bit about a local farm just outside of town that has fallen into a state of disrepair, and suggests you might want to check it out if you want to earn a little bit of money, since now you're on your own in the world. As he takes his leave, the game opens up to you. Now you can go anywhere and do anything you like. Of course, you can and probably should head over to that old farm and get your hands dirty in the game's farming system, as it will be important for progression. But you can also just go talk to the various villagers around town. Some of them will be main characters, NPCs, which have their own lives and schedules. They'll have a variety of dialogue depending on the day and where you run into them, and they might give you gifts, offer tips, ask you to do things for them, and more. You can also give them gifts to raise your friendship with them if you can figure out what they like. Other NPCs will offer tips and ask you to complete tasks, even if they're not the scripted, ever-changing characters. As you wander about, you'll eventually stumble into more dangerous areas. Enemy encounters are placed around these maps and will trigger when you walk close to them, kind of like a Pokemon-style battle system. These encounters are unavoidable, and once triggered, you can't escape. Don't worry though, on normal difficulty, the death penalties are pretty forgiving. You'll lose a small bit of gold when you die, if you even had any, and you'll just be sent back to your home, and the world's monsters and mysteries will reset. This can be devastating if you've used a lot of resources to delve very deep into a dangerous area, but if you're just casually wandering around, getting into trouble and seeing what's where, it's not really a big deal to get killed by something. Battles are turn-based, and you can fight either using your equipped weapon, or you can select a ritual, which is basically a magic spell, and you'll unlock more of those as the game unfolds. They'll either do damage, apply buffs, debuff the enemy, and other useful effects. Enemies will hit pretty hard, and every fight will take its toll. So having enough food to sustain yourself is vitally important, as that is the primary source of healing in Welcome to Elderfield, and it's very uncommon to find other sources of healing. You do not regenerate health over time, so often how far you delve into a dangerous area will be completely determined by your strength and ability to take hits, as well as how much food you have to heal to keep yourself going. You can, of course, return home and take a bath anytime you like, but doing so will reset all of the monsters. So you have to balance very carefully so that you do not undo all the progress you've just made. If you want to keep pushing on through an area and you're running low on health, you're going to need some food. And that brings us to the primary gameplay loop of Welcome to Elderfield. The world is large and filled with mysteries and treasure, but the food is the fuel you need to explore further. Farming will allow you to grow the best ingredients to cook the strongest food. And there are other options available to you while your crops grow, such as fishing, investigating strange news events for rewards, digging up treasure, completing tasks, and talking to villagers, and more. Of course, having better equipment will also be a necessity for exploring. It will reduce how much food you need to use in the first place and will allow you to take on harder challenges, which would otherwise be out of your league. Fortunately, there are several ways to become stronger in Welcome to Elderfield. The simplest way is to fight more enemies. Each time you win, you'll gain some experience and eventually level up, increasing your stats. You can also find weapons and armor scattered around the world as you explore. Many tasks completed for the other townsfolk will provide you with new equipment as rewards on occasion. And finally, there is forging. Unlocked early on, the player will have the ability to craft various materials into new equipment, combine multiple types of equipment into new equipment, and upgrade existing tools and equipment. To acquire resources for forging, the player will need to gather forageable resources around the world, as well as go mining. There are many mines in Welcome to Elderfield, which has a simple layout and only a few resources available. However, the more dangerous areas of the world are home to full-sized mines. Mines which have several levels, randomly changing layouts, special requirements to unlock the deepest floors, and rare secrets waiting at the bottom. The layout of the mine can change dramatically from week to week, and will reset every Monday after the player bathes. Not only this, but the contents of those randomized floors are also randomized. You will find rocks and ores, but also treasure chests, lootable relics and debris, items scattered about, and more. Mining is no easy feat, however. Every swing of your pickaxe can invite trouble, and you never know what could be waiting in the dark. But that said, the game isn't all danger and mystery. The actual farming aspects of the game are mostly safe and relaxing. You can buy seeds, plant them, water them, and watch them grow. You can cultivate all sorts of wholesome crops, such as corn, wheat, eyeballs, worms, and teeth. You'll grow everything you need to cook meals, craft items, and even use as fishing bait in a pinch. Some crops may yield unexpected results, but, well, you'll see. You can also place a variety of useful objects around your farm. Some are purely decorative, but some can be used to further process your items into new cooking ingredients, smelt ores into bars, and so on. Processing items will often increase their value, though it will take time and a bit of coal. You can also build larger farming objects, such as a harvest effigy or a ritual brazier. These larger structures will provide bonuses to their respective farming patch, and the brazier can be used to perform useful farming rituals, which will last many days. A ritual of rain, for instance, will keep your crops watered. You can also place scarecrows to, well, scare the crows. And that's the gist of the game. There are, of course, a ton of features and nuances I haven't gone over, such as fishing, the traveling merchant, farm villagers, and the taxman. But you can explore all of these features and more by playing the free demo on Steam or itch.io. Link in the description. And so, with the long-winded game description out of the way, I can now talk a little bit about the idea of the game. What I want this game to be, how I want players to feel when they play it, and a little bit of what I've had to do to get it here. In short, I want players to live in Elderfield. This game isn't about progression necessarily, as much as it is about open-endedness, a wealth of content, and a sense that the world just exists and is waiting there for you to go out and explore it. While there is a somewhat linear intended progression of major challenges, which I'll get into in a future devlog, most of the game's content is available from the get-go, and the player doesn't necessarily have to do any of it. The idea, however, is to entice the player with so many options for things to do, resources to acquire, places to explore, and creative goals to set for themselves that a clear direction is never needed. The player will hopefully always decide what they want to focus on next. In some ways, this is achieved in the same way that other farming games approach it, by giving the player an overwhelming number of crops to grow, resources to collect, ores to mine, things to craft, upgrades to buy, places to go, people to see. However, I don't have access to a key incentive that other farming games use, that being time. You see, in Welcome to Elderfield, you don't have to go to sleep. Having a strange town with strange rules allows me to take some strange liberties with the limitations normally imposed on the player in other farming games. Usually, farming games have small worlds with limited exploration. Everything is usually a short jog away from home, and the amount of time you have in the day is balanced with how far the player is expected to venture. In my game, though, the world is large. Excursions into the unknown can be unpredictable, and I want players to be able to get sucked into the more adventurous aspects of the game. So forcing them to watch the clock and run back home constantly doesn't really work. I want the player to be able to hunker down and work on all the cozy stuff. I also want them to be able to go off on an adventure for days at a time if they feel like it. This is achieved in a number of ways which really set Welcome to Elderfield apart from other farming RPGs. The first way is that there is no need to sleep. You can just stay up forever, and there's no real penalty for that. In fact, sleeping can cause some unusual events to happen, so whether you want to sleep or not might depend on what else you're doing, or how good your luck is. That said, sleeping will pass a significant amount of time, so sleeping is often still the best way to grow your crops quickly. The second is that there is no stamina system. The player can perform any number of actions they want, whenever they want. You can plant or harvest any number of crops, mine as much as you like, fish all day long, and more. These are instead balanced in new ways. The number of farming plots available is limited from the start, and more are unlocked with items you find as you progress, growing your farm larger and larger as you play. You can mine as much as you like, but each swing of the pick can potentially cause bad things to happen, such as curses, damage from debris, or even a battle with an enemy. So while you can mine for days, you risk running out of food to heal, becoming too cursed for battles to be worthwhile, and if you die, you have to fight your way back to the mines all over again. For fishing, you are limited by how much bait you have, which will depend on finding loot, farming for bait, spending money, and other factors. The third is that most of the game's systems are more forgiving in relation to time passing. For instance, while watering crops will guarantee that they grow at night, unwatered crops also have a small chance to grow anyways, and you can even increase this chance for unwatered crops to grow if you want to build a more passive farm, though it will never quite get to 100%. Crops will also not die if left unwatered, and crows can't eat fully grown crops. Most crops are also not season dependent, and can be planted at any time, so they won't die when seasons change. This means that leaving your farm unattended for long periods of time, while slowing down crop progression, will not destroy your farm the way it will in other farming games. Animals you raise will also not lose friendship as long as they're fed, and you can leave several days worth of feed in their feeding trough, so you can leave them unattended for as long as you have stocked them up. You miss out on growing their friendship or collecting resources, but nothing bad will happen. Animals also cannot die or accrue negative friendship points. All of these decisions have allowed me to keep the farm and other systems balanced similarly to what a stamina system allows, while removing the strict constraints of time and stamina, giving the player the flexibility needed to explore a larger world and take on a variety of tasks. This does come with a drawback, however. While other farming RPGs suck you in by giving you a ton of goals and content, what really turns them into a legal drug is the daily time limit. There is always a sense of urgency and a just one more day loop that you can get sucked into. Without such an extreme time limit, my game needs to incentivize the player to keep playing in other ways. The main way I do this is with mystery and intrigue. Where other games keep you grinding out resources and progressing through the game in order to, well, progress, I plan to use the carrot on a stick approach instead, rather than the fear of depleting time. Welcome to Elderfield is filled with mystery. Many strange places to go, secrets hidden all over the place, villagers with unique schedules, daily news events that lead the player to bizarre, curated scenes with dangers and rewards, many items hidden throughout the world which will allow more progression back at home, bizarre enemies to fight, powerful bosses to overcome, and a ton of lore and story, peeled back and expanded over time through completing tasks and wandering further from home. There are also a ton of random scheduled occurrences, such as strange visitors and mysterious events. My hope is that through solid world building, I can keep the player curious and excited to explore this weird world, which will mean needing more resources to sustain them, which incentivizes the core gameplay loop of farming, gathering, cooking, fishing, building, and crafting. And, well, that about sums it up. There are many challenges involved in getting this balance right, and I'll have a lot to say about that in the future devlogs, especially now that the demo is out and I've had plenty of opportunities to address feedback and update the game. But we'll leave that for another time. I hope you found this overview of Welcome to Elderfield interesting, and with this out of the way, I could talk more in depth about the development of new features, the technical aspects of the game, and how I approach all aspects of game dev with a bit more context in the future. But that's all for now. You can check out the game on Steam and itch.io, support its development on Patreon, and help spread the word by liking, commenting, and subscribing. So that just about does it for today's devlog video. If you enjoy the game, if you've tried it out and it's scratched that itch for you, please consider giving it a review over on Steam. We've had over 1,000 plays of the game now, over 1,000 downloads, and we're sitting right around 10 reviews, so the conversion rate on those is not great. So if you enjoyed the game, please help us spread the word by giving it a review on Steam, as it will help give us a boost in the algorithm and to get that rating up above the positive, which is the highest it can get to with only 10 reviews. If we get 50 reviews, we can get to very positive, so give it a review if you like it, and it would mean the world to me. That said, I hope you all enjoyed this devlog. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Keep it spooky, and I'll see you in Elderfield.